guys, welcome back to chapter 5 of Naya Nuki. Now, if you're enjoying Naya Nuki and you want something else to read, but you don't want to read something we're already reading, well, check out a book by the same author called Somti Token. It is about a Nez Perce boy, and it's a true story just like Naya Nuki. Did you know this was based on a true story? Kind of cool, right? So, if you get a chance, look for Somti Token. But let's get started on chapter 5, A Night to Run. It was an October afternoon, and the evening meal was ready. The heat of the day was still present. It was warm and muggy. The air was still. Suddenly the wind came up, raising the dust. The temperature began to fall. The western sky grew dark as the sun was going down. A storm was building. Naya Nuki's heart began to race. This could be the night. She was hardly able to chew her food. Thunder and lightning filled the air. At sunset, the rain started. The women rushed to bury the red-hot coals of their fires. Everyone took shelter in their long houses. Fires were built under each hole in the roofs of the long houses. But the wind caused the smoke to remain inside the houses. It became so bad that the fires had to be put out. Everyone huddled in the buffalo skins to keep warm. Many went to sleep early. Naya Nuki crouched in her corner. She listened to every sound around her. Her heart beat so fast and so hard that she was afraid others could hear it pound inside her body. Outside, the wind howled, and the thunder was deafening. Bright flashes of lightning lit up the longhouses for a few seconds at a time. The Great Spirit surely must be angry. The heavens seemed to roar. Naya Nuki remembered the other storms, when she and her brothers and sisters huddled close to their mother until the storm had passed. Now Naya Nuki would use the weather she once had feared to help her and her desperate run to freedom. The wind and rain continued. The thunder and lightning came and went. The longhouse grew quiet. It was very dark inside, and Naya Nuki waited. Time passed slowly. With the fires out, Naya Nuki could move unseen. Even if her movement were noticed, she could not be recognized. Now was the perfect time. The hours of waiting in the darkness were over. It was time to leave, time for escape. Naya Nuki moved slowly toward the door, being careful not to disturb the sleeping forms. She had memorized where each person slept and made her way easily through the darkness towards the opening. Once outside the longhouse, Naya Nuki walked slowly in the direction of the tree-covered hill and the pile of brush where the buffalo hide was hidden. She had moved the knife to this same hiding place before dawn just 2 days earlier. Also hidden there were some dried food and 3 pairs of moccasins. As Naya Nuki left the village in the pouring rain, she began to run. Distant lightning gave her just enough light to make out familiar surroundings. Soon she reached the pile of brush and quickly uncovered the precious items so necessary for her travel. Naya Nuki quickly tied everything securely inside the buffalo skin. She tied the knife to her side, took a deep breath, and began to run. She headed north and west away from the village. She had looked at the route many times from the hill near the village, but now it was dark, and the rain and the wind seemed to change everything. No stars were visible to guide her. Naya Nuki ran as fast as she could without slipping and falling. An accident now could ruin everything. Naya Nuki was alone. There would be no one to help her. She could not afford to make a mistake. To fail now would mean certain death. She must move as fast as possible and as far as possible. As Naya Nuki ran, she was busy paying attention to her efforts that she forgot her fears. All her senses were needed to help her stay on her feet and keep running. She ran for hours before she even thought of how tired she was getting. It was more like 5 hours before Naya Nuki stopped running for the first time to catch her breath and to rest for a few minutes. The rain continued, but far ahead Naya Nuki could see a star. The storm was ending. She had hoped for more rain. By morning, a search party would mount horses and come looking for her. If they found her trail, she wouldn't have a chance. It must rain some more. Naya Nuki cut her rest short and was once again running through the darkness. She had fallen several times, but rolled over and was not hurt. Soon the stars were again covered by clouds as another squall line moved in. Lightning and thunder once again filled the night. The welcome rain beat down on Naya Nuki's face, giving her new energy. She forgot her tired, aching muscles and ran on and on into the stormy night. Naya Nuki's next stop was at dawn. The eastern sky behind her was brightening. During the long night, she had crossed several small streams. Now she had come to a large river flowing south towards the great river. It was wide, swift, and deep. Naya Nuki had learned her wilderness travel lessons well. Study the current, look for the eddy on the opposite shore for a safe landing spot. Go upstream, walk out into the current as far as possible, then begin to swim and float downstream and across the current to a safe landing on the opposite side. Naya Nuki went upstream and picked her route carefully. She eased her tired legs in the cold water and began her crossing. She had room to spare and easily floated into the quiet eddy of deep water. Reaching the far bank, she scrambled up to level ground. She had covered her first large river safely. Naya Nuki felt proud of herself. She moved on. As daylight came, heavy dark clouds filled the night sky. The air was cool. From a small hill, a tired Naya Nuki looked in every direction. In the distance, to the south, over the rolling prairie, she could faintly see a line of trees, and now and then a bluff cut into the great river. The line of trees looked like a giant snake as it followed the twisting riverbed. The sight made Naya Nuki feel very good. The river would be her guide, her only map to show the way home. She would not let it out of her sight. As the day brightened, the rain stopped. Now she must find a place to hide. She must not be seen. Daylight was her enemy, ready to betray her. Naya Nuki was exhausted. Every muscle ached as never before. Her feet burned with pain, but she was free, on her own, on her way home. Naya Nuki used an old trick about hiding that she had learned from her people. Where there are no rocks, caves, willows, or trees, and just open grassland, one digs one's hiding place, digging carefully without disturbing the area around her too much. Naya Nuki made a shallow trench to lie in. She covered herself with soil. Naya Nuki used a pile of grass at her side to scatter over the fresh soil. To find her, the enemy would have to walk on her. Naya Nuki's hiding place was dug on a gentle slope, far from any normal routes of travel. The damp earth felt warm around her body. Her belongings, wrapped in her buffalo hide, lay next to her. As weary as she was, sleep still would not come. Naya Nuki's ears were alert for sounds of anything or anyone approaching her. The grass around her was too high for her to see anything without standing up. All Naya Nuki could think of was her freedom, her escape. When sleep did come, it was a restless sleep, filled with dreams of being chased and not being able to run. Naya Nuki woke up often and found herself shaking with fear. She did not get up until nearly dark. Her body ached everywhere. She was so stiff and sore that she could hardly stand. First she struggled to get her hands and knees. She raised up on her knees and peered over the top of the grass. She could see for a great distance. There was not a living thing in sight. Slowly Naya Nuki rose on wobbling legs. She stretched while looking in every direction. She reached down, picked up her bundle, and once more began moving west. As darkness closed about her, it became impossible to see the great river in the clear sky. The friendly stars would be her guide. Naya Nuki planned to travel at night, for at least 5 sleeps. Darkness would hide her from the enemy. Fear of capture followed her every step. She would run as much as possible during her night travel. She had to be on guard for the great white bear, the grizzly, that prowled about at night. The bear was called by this name because the silver tips on its fur coat make it look gray and even white from a distance. This ferocious bear would attack almost without reason. Naya Nuki would not have a chance against the great white bear with its long, sharp claws, with the strength of many warriors, and with speed to outrun any brave. Wolf packs roamed the prairie in search of the weak, the lame, and the old. Naya Nuki would have to be alert every minute. She could rely only on herself. One moment of carelessness would mean instant death. The stiffness slowly left Naya Nuki's muscles as she moved faster and faster. Soon she began her rhythmic running in the darkness, careful not to twist her ankle or step in a hole. The sky was clear, and soon the moon brightened the land enough for Naya Nuki could see her shadow. All night Naya Nuki ran at a steady pace, with short periods of walking that served as rest periods. At every stream she drank small amounts of water. She ate no food, and would go without food as long as possible. As a Shoshone Indian, she was used to having only 3 or 4 meals a week when times were hard. Now Naya Nuki would call on her past experiences to help her survive her long and difficult journey back to her people and the life that she loved. As the second night neared its end, Naya Nuki felt quite sure that she had not been followed. She had a great feeling of relief that she had come so far without unforeseen trouble. Somehow she would find her people. She was sure of it now. Nothing would stop her. When dawn of the second day arrived, Naya Nuki came upon a large river, much like the one she had crossed the first night. She decided to stay back about a mile from the river and find a place to hide for the day. She walked along the drainage ravine that came down from the sloping plain to this river. A large log jam had formed across the ravine. During the spring runoff of melting snows, Naya Nuki climbed into this mass of jumbled logs. At the center of a huge pile, she found a space large enough for her to stretch out. She leveled off the place with pieces of bark and twigs. She spread out her buffalo hide and curled up for some sleep. Naya Nuki slept only slightly better than she had the day before. Every sound brought her wide awake and alert. A porcupine scratching on a nearby log, a coyote's piercing howl, and a raven's squawking kept her on edge and robbed her of precious sleep. And that will do it for the end of chapter 5. So, remember, if you don't know the answer to one of those questions, go back and re-listen to the chapter, answer with a complete sentence, and restate those questions. If you're not getting full points, it's because you're not using a complete sentence or you're not restating the question. All right, best of luck to you guys. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow.